Notice we're kind of in that low and now bigger medium area. What we got to watch out for is any storms that develop in this northwest flow are going to move down here and the potential to produce damaging straight line winds. Even if we go to day 3, you could see down to the south, we've got that severe weather risk. So let's go back, look at that future cast and kind of show you while there won't be widespread storms, the ones that get going are going to tap into that cooler, drier loft and produce some gusty winds. All right, so here's a look at the future cast. We'll go into the afternoon hours. You can see that big cluster back to the west. As we get to about 3, 4, 5 o'clock, that's when we see the isolated storms develop. Notice there's not a ton of them around, and that's kind of what I would expect, that they're going to be pretty isolated in nature, but the ones that can get going potentially could be severe. We'll go into the evening hours. You can see a couple clusters around 6 o'clock. Go to about 7 o'clock. They're pushing off to the east, and then they're getting out of the region. So that's kind of today. Not a huge risk, right? Just isolated. Let's go through tonight. We'll go into the early morning hours. We start looking to the northwest early tomorrow morning. Here's 10 o'clock. Look at that big cluster developing back into Kentucky and Tennessee. So this is about 11 a.m. on Thursday. We get into the afternoon hours. Look at that. So you can see why tomorrow's risk likely is going to be a much higher risk, just because it looks like one of these complexes of thunderstorms is going to develop and likely push into the Carolinas. Now remember, let's go back to our severe weather outlook for tomorrow. I'll pop this up briefly and you can see that area that's going to be in yellow here, right there. So you could see this is why that risk is in place for your Thursday. So I'll turn that back off and you can see, look at that line. Yeah, that's likely going to be a pretty big line. Strong damaging winds, maybe some small hail, but this honestly starting to look like a flood threat, because if that cluster moves slow enough, that's going to put down a lot of water in a short period of time. So that will push out as we go into the evening hours, and maybe some more developing early on Monday, or it's Friday morning, we might talk about Monday. So let's loop this. This is a 48-hour loop. So you can see today's risk is pretty low. Tomorrow's risk, definitely a much higher risk for seeing some isolated storms. So we'll pay attention to the risk today, but I think they'll be very isolated, as you see right there. This thing tomorrow, let's go into tomorrow one more
and other people help us get things restored. But I cannot urge the public enough, stay out of the area, stay off of the roads, and remember, most catastrophic things that happen to victims during a storm is after the storm and not during the storm.
You and I have been texting all afternoon. We're getting reports from viewers. We're getting images from Sky 5 that are devastating. Walk me through, I mean, you have been out and about on the ground yourself, some of the most impacted areas of your county.
You know, it's a swath running from US 64 across the county to the north end of the county. There's damage from residential houses to Pfizer, which is one of our largest employers and largest medicine factories in America. And we have farming communities that are messed up. But more importantly, what we're more worried about is the lives. And as I want to put back out there again, most things that happen as injuries and deaths is after the storm. Stay out of the areas until we can get power restored and get this area safe.
We're texting earlier today too about injuries. Tell me a little bit about about the people in your community. Any significant injuries from folks that really took cover from this tornado?
We do have some injuries in the area, but thanks to the area that was notified that a tornado was on the ground, that helps greatly. We have had reports of people carrying themselves to the hospital. We've had a few EMS calls, and like I said earlier, we are still in the early stages of going around and making sure people are secure. So we really don't know exactly what the amount of injuries or if there's any deaths in it at this time, because we're at the early stages of this event.
Earlier we were at Pfizer on Wesleyan Boulevard, and you mentioned to me just in passing they've had significant damage, and it's also impacted the medicine there. You said there's a lot of pallets that have damaged. Walk me through what you told me earlier.
I've got reports of 50,000 pallets of medicine that have strewn across the facility and damaged through the rain and the wind of things, but I have not confirmed that. That is what I'm getting from the people that are in the area there. But obviously there is debris there and there are pallets of medicine. So, you know, it's a bad situation, but Nash County's got high resolve and we're going to get back to what we do.
Let's talk about power outages, because it seems like everywhere you turn, including over by Pfizer or many of these back roads, you've got a lot of downed trees and power lines. What are we looking at right now in terms of power outages in your county?
We have areas that do not have energy, and the most dangerous thing is when power lines are down. Obviously, our cut team with the Nash County Sheriff's Office, that we have a chainsaw team, and also the fire departments and DOT, we can't work on these trees that are down in the roadways when there's possible power in these lines. So if there's a power line entangled in it, we leave it alone until the power company can get there. Or I urge the public again, stay away from these power lines. You don't know if a generator's on somewhere or if there's power in that line. It's just a dangerous situation. Patience is the key to survival.
You passed a gentleman that works for NCDOT earlier in the hallway. He had some updates too. Any significant road closures? I mean, I know 95 was backed up for quite some time. Any road closures right now going on in the area that people need to be aware of as we're approaching that rush hour?
What I would ask is to people stay off of NC 43 and also the connector roads, Town Hall Road and those areas, the Dorches and the Old Carriage Road. Stay out of the northern area here. If you don't have to go home, don't travel the roads and be sightseeing. It interferes with the fire departments if we get a fire call, or EMS if EMS gets called. Emergency services is working just as hard as every other agency out here, and when they have to take away from their mission to save some sightseer, it takes away from the mission.
You've got a big command post inside with agencies from all over the county and beyond. What are the next steps that you guys are working towards right now, as obviously the sun is out and the storm has passed? You
know, now is the time that, as I said earlier, it's the most dangerous time we have. We still got power lines down. We don't know if there's power there. People will be out cleaning up. There's tree limbs hanging in trees and things, so it's still a dangerous situation. We're trying to get as much of this cleaned up before nightfall.
Perfect. That's Sheriff Keith Stone here in Nash County. Significant updates here, of course, as he mentioned. Still a lot of damage here in Nash County. Down trees and power lines, significant roadways that are closed. Of course, we'll continue to bring you the latest information live on WRAL and WRAL.com.
Have you met Alan Chester, our House of Representatives?